Sign up today for a 7-day free trial at alerts.chartguys.com. Congrats, Bitcoin bulls. Lots going on out there. It's definitely time to be paying attention to fundamentals as far as global markets are concerned. Trade war heating up between the US and China. US just labeled China currency manipulators. Stock market is tanking. Bitcoin's going up. Without a doubt, in my opinion, there is an inverse correlation between the market and Bitcoin right now. And every time that CNBC mentions that or talks about, China manipulating its currency and money fleeing from China into Bitcoin, every time that's talked about, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to a certain degree. So if we look at all the charts today are going to be Bitfinex as opposed to Coinbase. Coinbase about a half hour ago, data just stopped working with TradingView. So there are lags, there's gaps in those charts. So we're doing Bitfinex. But what I want to point out is just the clear inverse correlation where we had Bitcoin double bottom at 9,000. This first few days of the bounce looked very weak. It looked like a bear flag. The bulls were not proving anything. And then on July 31st, it changed right here. Big solid green candlestick, and that kicked off a 6-day bull move straight into a higher high. What happened on July 31st? That's the first big day of weakness for the S&P 500. We had a bearish reaction to the FOMC, but it's been the bearish reaction to China and the escalating trade war that has led to the S&P 500 to drop off a cliff. We had a little bit of a bounce at the end of the day, but look at extended hours. We are down multiple dollars, and we closed at 284.05, and we're trading under 279. It is extremely weak right now. We are looking back at dumps in the overall S&P 500 that we have not seen since December, with a massive dump 2018, and February 2018 was also a big dump as well. RSI levels are getting absolutely extreme. What I want to be watching from here is, will we see Bitcoin consolidate when the S&P 500 hits a temporary bottom and gets a meaningful bounce going? And we're going to be watching for that in the S&P 500 in the next 2 days, whether it's tomorrow or Wednesday. We are going to be looking for that bounce. Even if it's a very weak move and we get follow through, short-term bounces to cool off some of those RSI levels before potential other legs down is what we're looking for. And again, what I want to know is Bitcoin inversely correlated to the point that it's going to top out when the market bottoms out? That's what I'm looking for information on. So from here, the bulls are in full control. And after trading too much last week and getting overwhelmed with the computer, I did not get a good entry for a shorter term swing trade. Again, I'm still in my long-term no-touch positions, and that's kept me sane over the last 5 days because my goal is to have more money than yesterday every single day that I trade, and thanks to the long-term anti-FOMO no-touch position, that's been the case, and I've been able to remind myself that. I looked at the breakout last night before going to bed and was like, oh man, we're up 5-6%. And then remembered, I'm making money. It's okay. I could be making more money. I could be making less money, but I'm making some money. And again, that just psychologically helps me remain patient. So at this point, with the market getting so weak and China close to waking up, I'm going to be watching for another 4-hour high or low. And I may look to make an entry on a 4-hour high or low, because if things are going to get crazy in the market, maybe things are going to get crazy in Bitcoin as well. We'll be watching the recent highs in the 13,000s as the next clear resistance level. And the weekly time frame is still extremely strong after bouncing off of exponential support. So the 4-hour time frame with exponential support on the 12 period here is the most clear. And anything above 10,769 is a 4-hour high or low on Bitfinex. And we're going to be looking at the exponential support, which is currently 11,400 and rising. So I'm patiently watching. I may look to scale in on some consolidation. And if we got a bull break, I may look to just play bull breaks into quick flips because, again, the fundamentals, we had the big bull move in Bitcoin back on the run-up in June, and there was no real reason that we could point to it. And when markets have a fundamental reason that analysts and talking heads and Twitter handles and everybody can point to, it makes it more cohesive. It makes it more trusting for the market and for other people to then get on board. If I say Bitcoin's bullish because it changed the weekly trend, that's going to make sense and that's going to resonate with a small fraction of traders and investors. Whereas if you have everybody pointing to global trade war and uncertainty and market weakness, it makes a lot more sense for the potential safe haven aspect of things that people can, again, it makes sense to them and they feel a lot more comfortable making bullish entries if it makes sense why we're going up. So all about the 4-hour time frame. If we lose the 4-hour time frame, we're just going to look for a healthy daily higher low to form, increasing bull volume, and again, just pretty much ideal scenario. Didn't expect a break of 11,100. Now that I look back and look at the SPY weakness and the SPY inverse correlation, it makes a lot more sense as to why we went right through that resistance level without needing a daily higher low. Checking in on Ethereum, so 235.27 key resistance. It did break. We have to be cautious because when we break daily trends, change daily trends without follow through, we have to zoom out and be cautious of flags. So looking at the weekly chart, if this bounce didn't get any more follow through, it would be a bear flag setup, but the bulls do still have momentum in their favor and they need to make a clear break over 240 to try and get some follow through on this move. 4-hour time frame also in an uptrend. Anything above pretty much 217.22 is a 4-hour higher low. It's just weaker than Bitcoin, but it's a very similar setup to Bitcoin. Looking at ETH BTC, the weekly bear flag, again, we changed the daily trend and had no follow through. So the weekly bear flag confirmed. We saw another leg down with all altcoins and Bitcoin pairings and the S&P 500. Just always remind yourself it can go lower. That keeps you protected. It keeps you expecting anything. And if it can always go lower, we never want to overexpose ourselves. So the ETH BTC pairing did go lower. The bears are in complete control there. 4-hour exponential resistance, keeping things contained. If we get over that, we zoom out to the daily and we just look for a daily lower high compared to 2233. Litecoin, big upper wick of profit taking. So I would say Bitcoin strongest, Litecoin middle, Ethereum weaker out of those three. And 105.88 was resistance that did break, but again, no follow through. Have to be cautious of a potential weekly bear flag. And a lot of traders would point this out as a potential head and shoulders pattern with the left shoulder, head, and the right shoulder forming here. So again, if we don't get follow through, caution of weekly bear flags. Key support is going to be down at 90.48. If 90.48 breaks, that's a big red flag, especially after that bull break with zero follow through. And again, it's the LTC BTC chart dropping down, testing the bottom of 79.32, and the weekly bear flag is on the verge of confirming if that bear break does take place. 68.28 is the next support level if it follows through, as the bears are on the verge of that bear flag confirmation. So again, we're remaining in a scenario where Bitcoin dominance is clear, and it's likely the narrative that's being spun as a market safe haven and all the global turmoil. XRP USD, 34.1 resistance, got up to 33.2, didn't break resistance. If we were to come down and lose the daily higher low pattern, that would be our red flag. So 3087 is the most important support level. If that's lost, the daily uptrend is lost, and we obviously wouldn't break resistance in that scenario. Just like the other names, a weekly bear flag is possible with the weakness of this bounce currently and the size of the dump preceding it. So the burden of proof on everybody that we just looked at, aside from Bitcoin, remains on the bulls on the weekly time frame. Have to get follow through to try and negate those weekly bear flags. Binance, still in a daily equilibrium, so holding up a little bit better. Low, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, higher low formed at 27.08, and key resistance is 28.77. And we're right in the middle of that range. We should see a break sometime within the next 24, 36 hours on Binance. If it's a bull break, then the weekly time frame will zoom out and watch 32.60 key resistance. And if it's a bear break, we're looking down at our low. So pretty much how we break the tight levels determines whether we're looking at the top of the initial bounce or the bottom of the initial dump. So a nice equilibrium to be watching, potential trade opportunity approaching on Binance in the direction that that breaks. Keeping in mind that we've seen a lot of breaks with fake outs on altcoins. Link USD, this one's on Binance. So we have lower highs and lower lows. We did get a bull move, but no follow through. Upper wicks are very notable for a lack of confidence in bulls. Resistance is 309. We got up to 276. So need a more convincing bull break. Need a daily trend change with a higher low and higher high. And right now we don't have that. We have lower highs and lower lows. We saw a bull move breaking some resistances, but until we see the higher low and follow through, have to be skeptical of the bulls' ability to shift momentum in their favor. So very interesting times out there. Again, the S&P 500, this happens maybe once a year on average as far as the significant size of the dump. And because, like I said, same thing, because there's a narrative as to why there's market weakness and all these fears, it makes those fears a little bit more palpable. Whereas in December, the fears, in my instance, in my observation, didn't seem as, convincingly attributed to something as significant as labeling China a currency manipulator and the lack of any deal with China and really what it boils down to. Don't want to give political opinions, but regardless of political opinions, I feel that time is on China's side in the sense that the election coming up in 1 year and 3 months, is going to be very important for Trump. And that's kind of, if we have a really weak market heading into that, that's obviously a very bad optic for his campaign. So wondering if China's going to push the envelope as far as time goes and draw this out for another 12 months. And that, in my opinion, would give them the upper hand. So we'll see. It's interesting. Things are getting exciting. Again, always remain protective. There is opportunity out here, but the last thing we want to be doing is losing money or giving profit back. So remaining a bit conservative when things are a bit wild and uncertain is okay. But the Bitcoin bulls are certainly very confident. And being a Bitcoin bull the last 4 days is certainly a lot easier than being a market bull. So we'll end it there. We'll check back in day by day as things are so exciting. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Don't forget to do good things out there. And let's see if this 4-hour uptrend can remain intact overnight.
Hey, you get out of here, punk. You broke my bird feeder. That's a fat bear.